in 2020, we were met with the pandemic crisis. That was a real crash course in leading from the front. That was a pretty defining moment for me, having never been in the top spot before and having to lead other executives through the crisis.
Good afternoon. It's another beautiful day here in Melville, New York. Got myself, Mike Goodman, and Todd London hosting another episode of Stockton Delivered. Today we have John Perna, the president and CEO of Hamilton Building Supply in New Jersey. I'm particularly interested in learning more about how a company like his has remained one of the top companies in New Jersey for over 100 years. They are an independent lumber yard, and there's a lot of consolidation going on in the industry. So very interested to see what he tells us about how they sustain and how he's building his future.
Look, this is the ultimate underdog story that's turned into a success story. You have a guy who is had his grandfather, his father, and now himself in the business that has found a way to be relevant over the course of 100 years. And in the face of all of this adversity, found a real niche for himself in the business. I think it's going to be a really great podcast.
Today we have John Perna, the CEO and president of Hamilton Building Supply. Welcome, John, to the show.
Now, thank you for having me.
Yes, so let's just dive straight into it. Tell us a little bit your career path and how you got into becoming the president and CEO of Hamilton Building Supply.
Yeah, so Hamilton Building Supply is a family-run business, and I represent the third generation of the family in the business. And I started in the yard. I worked on a framing crew in college, and I've worked at the sales counter during the financial crisis, and also handed some management type tasks. And that was really my first experience in taking lead through adversity in a company that was going through significant change during the 2009 recession. So I had elevated my management opportunities, um, worked my way up at Hamilton through the 2010s. Then I pivoted to business school and ultimately left the company for a couple of years. And then after a couple of years, I returned and took over as president and CEO right before COVID.
So, family company. I would assume as you come in as this next generation, the question is like, what's new now? What's different? If you had to put your mark on Hamilton from the past generation, how would you define that?
I think, for Hamilton, we've always done a really good job of adapting to our customer needs. And, being a 101-year-old company, we've had many years where we've gone through the ups and downs of really good times and really not so good times and have been able to adapt along the way. So, the generations before me have all had to adapt the company, the culture, and really the people within the organization to what our customer needs were. So my third generation is really no different. We're just adapting the company in a different way that is suited to the needs of our customers in the marketplace right now.
And out of curiosity, as you sit around and you find that the companies around you keep getting bought up by bigger guys, what do those demands look like? What is that change that makes Hamilton special?
Yeah, there's no question there's consolidation in our industry, and we're dealing with that on a weekly basis, whether it's at the dealer level or the distributor level. It changes the complexity of who we're buying from or who our new competitors are when we're competing to get contractor business. But for us, we don't want to lose sight of the customer and our core segment of the market, which is really wholly focused on custom home builders and residential remodelers, ensuring that we're offering a service that meets the needs of a remodeler and a custom home builder, so that way their job sites are super productive and they're remaining efficient with their crews is really what value we bring to the table as an independent lumber and building material dealer.
Cool.
We find that, when we compete against some of the larger dealers or maybe the dealers that have more locations or they're, corporately or private or publicly owned, they tend to focus on one or two core categories to really drive value for their customer, whereas we pivot to other categories like millwork and specialty items that we tend to focus on and find value for our customers.
And you're able to do that, you think, as an independent? Like if we were to look around at other independents around the country, they have that flexibility compared to these larger companies, and that's what makes it the independents a little more unique and nimble, I guess.
What's really special about independence is the close-knit organization and the community or the communities that they serve. A lot of the independents um, have had legacy customers for a long period of time, just as we have had at Hamilton. But they've also been able to grow with new customers that really want that high touch, high service type of feel from an organization that they may not get from a larger organization. So for us, there's certain product categories where we have direct access to pricing and we're just as competitive as many of the other bigger players. So when we have price parity there and we can compete on that level playing field, well, then it really comes down to serviceability. And that's something that we really preach with our sales associates and throughout our sales team is really staying ahead of our customer needs and ensuring that we're responding quickly, but also accurately and with value.
Take a step back for a second, like give us a little high level overview of Hamilton, where it's located. You mentioned the types of customers, but maybe just the cities and towns you
Yeah,
focus on and products you're focused on.
sure. So Hamilton Building Supply is a single location lumber and building material dealer situated on about 9.5 acres in Hamilton, New Jersey, which is just outside of Trenton and Princeton, New Jersey, right in the center of the state, um, just over the bridge from Pennsylvania. So for us, um, we can service um, we can service towns throughout New Jersey and the Northeast corridor pretty comfortably, and also into Eastern Pennsylvania, where you have Bucks County, and then the Philadelphia metro and Philadelphia suburban counties. And then we can also get out to the Jersey Shore as well, where we service a lot of customers. So when we talk about unique competitive advantages, um, our single location is in and of itself a competitive advantage in that we can service multiple markets that maybe other dealer locations can't quite get to as easily. So for us, the customer we handle, which is 90% pro oriented, specifically custom home builders and residential remodelers. We don't really work with large home builders very much. If any, it's just a little bit of fill in. Um, our business is more suited to the needs of the custom home builder and the remodeler.
And out of curiosity, uh, as you're going after this type of segment, how does 2025 demands? How do you see it? Is the new construction part of your business growing? Is your residential business growing, and why?
Um, right now, 2025, our demand is very much focused towards residential remodeling. We are seeing a lot of opportunities in the remodeling space, where you have a lot of existing homeowners who might feel that lock-in effect from their current mortgage rates, where they bought their house a long time ago. They have that sub 3% mortgage rate, and now they're aging in the home, and whether it's their family growing or their needs just changing, they're looking for ways to renovate or add more space to their home. So we're seeing that a lot from our customers coming in, and we're doing additions, and where they're working on additions, and we're providing material there. Um, but on the flip side, the custom home market, I feel like has never been more vibrant in our area. What we're seeing with custom homes is not necessarily the overall size of the home. The homes are big, don't get me wrong. You're talking, 6, 7,000, 8,000 square foot homes, but just the enormity of them in terms of oversized windows, super high level finishes. I think what you're seeing now is a higher price per square foot than you've ever seen before with a custom home. So custom home buyers, they have a lot of equity. They're cash buyers for the most part, or they're borrowing against equities, and they're building some really impressive homes that we're able to participate in.
You've described me on the residential side to a T. Totally locked into my house, can't move if I
Right.
wanted to, and looking to upgrade. So that certainly resonates with me. From a vendor perspective or from a distributor perspective that may be listening today and saying, all right, I'd love to get more involved with Hamilton, demystify it for us. What do those two parties get wrong the most where they can't lock eye to eye with you and really speak your language?
I think for us, we're the core of our business is in the special order category. 50% of our revenue is driven from special orders. A lot of that being windows, doors, exterior millwork, interior millwork. And that's not to say that, we don't sell a lot of stock material. Sure, the other 50% is coming from stock material. Um, but for us, we need to manage just in time. And we don't sell as much commodity material as, say, another dealer who's wholly focused in the lumber and the framing side of the business. We still support it. We still sell a lot of lumber to many custom homes that we work with, but it's on a occasional basis. So for us, we need to manage our inventory just in time. We're not going to churn out tons and tons of volume of inventory on a regular basis where we're buying carloads of material, what have you. Well, that's why we need to work with vendors who can really partner with us and get us truckloads of material, what we need and when we need it, and help us manage our inventories when we need to have a lot more in the upswing months and then start to taper off in the downswing months. I feel like where some vendors tend to get it wrong, especially on the special order side, is we might work with a vendor on a job lot basis where we both had a really nice special order job of a product. We took care of the customer, we shipped the material, and then we fell a few pieces short, whether the customer just had an additional part added on to the job or a change of scope, or maybe we didn't do our part in getting the estimate right. Where we fall short is now that that same vendor, the distributor, they sold the very large package of material to us, and now there's just a very little bit left, and they're holding it hostage, and we're waiting for more material to get onto a truck. When it's like now we're just trying to satisfy the customer and really have a good positive experience at the end of the day. So that can be an instance where we run into some snafus with vendors. But for the most part, I think a lot of our vendors understand the just-in-time nature of our business and our need to deliver product quickly and accurately for our customers.
Maybe you don't want to call it out. Maybe you're willing to. Is there any vendors or distributors that just get it right?
Um, wow, that is a good question. You know what? I will call it out. Garden State Lumber, they're an interior millwork manufacturer, or distributor for us. They get it right every time. And I wish I could say that more about a lot of vendors. Uh, and unfortunately, I can't, just because of the complexity of the products that we sell. Everybody's going to falter here and there. Um, but what Garden State has done from a product niche focus, where they only sell interior millwork, maybe a handful of exterior products, but the products that we buy, they're all super well stocked, very clean. We know when the trucks come to us, they're never late. There's rarely ever an issue, and the quality is always consistent. So, to that end, yeah, I would put Garden State up there. Um, so yeah,
Kudos, Garden State, if you're listening. Would love to learn more about your service proposition.
yeah,
We can implement that here
We
too
should
in
have
Denver.
them on the podcast.
We'll have them on the podcast. Want to pivot back to we were talking about independent lumber yards, and all the consolidation. Love to hear your thoughts on where independents are going in the next 5, 10, 15 years. We look back 20 years, there was very little consolidation. It was just starting really. Now we're I don't know how far along we are, but we're 20 years later, and there's a lot less independence left. Where's do they remain? Is this just going to continue until there's no more left and there's just like five big companies? Well, what's your thoughts being one, and I'm sure being in the community of others and meeting others on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because again, we talk about it all the time about consolidation. We see it happening all over. And I think what you're seeing is is really nothing more than a gyration of independents that maybe have kind of met their life cycle in the industry. Whether it be there's just no more leadership to continue to take that company forward, and the company, the organization is exiting out, and that's part of the consolidation, that's part of the roll up. But at the same time, there's still other companies that are sort of like coming into the industry out of nowhere, and it's not like it's happening frequently, but it is happening. There are new companies entering markets where they know there's an opportunity because uh, a small business like a pro contractor wants to work with somebody that they know really well, who can meet their needs and is very attuned to their business structure. And unfortunately, the bigger you get, the more often that tends to get lost among the dealer that's trying to serve the pro contractor. So, and if you want to become an independent building material dealer these days, I think there's certainly opportunity for it, but it does require um, good leadership, strong leadership, as a matter of fact, and a really a niche oriented process. What part or what core scopes of the industry are you going to serve? What segments are you going to serve? And then the opportunities can be had. So I think our what makes our industry special is that we're talking about lumber and building materials, and we're serving nationally. And I'd say we're probably one of the biggest industries in the country, in terms of the housing industry, right alongside pharmaceuticals and technology and so forth. Um, but what makes lumber and building materials different uh, is that our industry isn't run by a handful of mega corporations. Certainly we have the big operators and you have some public companies who we can benchmark against. But at the end of the day, we have so many smaller companies that we all kind of play in the sandbox together. And, our common purpose goes beyond just making money. And it's that we're supporting the development and the availability of homes. And that's what's really exciting about our industry.
That's right. That's right, and that's a great point. Um, and just speaking of that, it sounds like you see independents remaining in the fold and new ones even popping up. And who knows what happens to the larger companies because they have different incentive structures of how where they end up in the
Sure.
future. And we've seen cycles where they come together, they break apart, they come together, almost like an accordion. What are things, and some of the things you've already mentioned, what are things as an independent dealer, and we have many independent listeners, dealer listeners, that you do and you're doing to protect yourself and build that future? You have 101 year past. How do you build a 101 year future? Whether that is including maybe more consolidation for you, but protecting your one location right now. What are the things that you do that make you unique, that separate you and maintain your independence?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, like I said, we celebrated our 100th year last year in business, and to surmise 100 years of work, like I had mentioned earlier, it really comes down to how well can your company adapt to the market's needs. And our company, through 100 years, through all the gyrations, has been able to adapt to fluctuating demand and customer needs and so forth. So for us to continue to keep growing, we need to continue to monitor the market very closely and adapt to our customer needs, our homeowner demands, and so forth. And also what what our own team members need in terms of a company that they want to work for in the long term, a company that they want to build a career with. So for us, we managed to get really good and scale very quickly by actually looking at our company as a whole and saying we want to do more with less. We used to be a company that had all of these value-added services, interior door shop, exterior door shop, pre-finish, and so forth. And while those were really nice services to offer a remodeler, or even a custom home builder, they weren't scalable. And for us to continue to be a going concern, for the next 20, 30, 40, 100 years, we need to have scale. So we would actually sort of strip down those divisions, consolidate to what our core competencies were, and scale through our core competencies and really laser focus.
So, from just tangentially, but on the same topic, you're a smaller company that's fighting a bunch of bigger companies. That resources are not your advantage, comparatively speaking. What's the management philosophy? How do you get these guys coming into Hamilton to believe in what you're doing? How do you what is the secret sauce to gain this type of buy-in to someone that is perpetually the underdog?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess when you're talking about that person to come to Hamilton, is it a customer or is it a salesperson
I'm
or?
asking around your workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think, with our team, we've really done well in finding people that were really good at understanding the millwork side of the business first, the harder aspects of the business, the more detail-oriented sides of the product scopes. So that's your windows and doors and millwork, et cetera. Um, we found that if they at least understand the complexities there, it'll be easier to teach them some of the commodity-oriented approach and help service their customers to that end. So for us, what we offer our sales team is really the autonomy to go out and build relationships with your customer, the tools and the resources to be able to do so, with very little scrutiny, other than the fact that are you growing your gross margin dollars, which is the most important for us, and are you developing really sound customer relationships? If you're not interested in establishing customer relationships or setting realistic goals for yourself and achieving those goals, you're probably going to struggle at our company. We're very adamant about goal setting. I think if anybody from our company listened to this podcast right now, they'd probably throw up by how much I talk about goals. It's very important for us. We have goals for our goals. But you know what? We instituted this philosophy 5, 6 years ago, and it's worked every single year since in terms of growth. So we're very focused in that regard when it comes to pace setting and goal setting.
You want to
So
go a
from
little
that
into that
end,
for us, just so we can understand what that means?
in terms of goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every salesperson we require to have, we require them to set 3 goals for themselves every year. Things that they want to achieve, whether it's profit related or whether it's customer related. And on top of that, they have monthly sales goals, monthly gross profit goals, and then beyond that, there's incentives for them based on the profit that they can earn from a sales standpoint. A lot of dealer colleagues I know, they have great outside sales teams, but what they'll do is they typically pay on, a combination of base salary and commission, whereas they don't really incentivize getting to the goal amount and then beyond that, whereas we do. We want you to not only meet your sales goals, but work beyond them, and you get rewarded for it. So for us, it's important that we have leadership and managers for our sales teams who are really enticing that. They're really pushing that forward and really staying attuned to what our sales teams are doing in terms of business development and what their activities are, how they can potentially engage customers and look at ways that they're not getting product scopes from them now and how they can develop that and get those product scopes in the future. For us, we don't We love getting new customers, but what we love more is getting more business out of our existing customers and really getting more of those product scopes. So that's something that we talk about a lot is how we can develop that wallet share with our customers.
So, talking about the goals and being focused on the goals, I'm assuming that's been part of your management style philosophy. What changes have you seen amongst the results, the people, the drive, good or bad?
I'll tell you what, we've had some salespeople that, started out with us and maybe started out a little slow and you kind of have your reservations and you think like, oh, I don't know if they're going to make it or not. But then they buy in over time and then they start to trust the process, so to speak. And now some of those people that we thought may not have made weren't going to make it a few years ago. Now they're some of our best salespeople. They're the best producers because they're so bought into the idea of what else can I develop with my existing customer? How else can I help? Why do I need to be the third or fourth supplier in their wheelhouse? Why can't I be just, one of two or one of one? Um, and on the contrary, we had some salespeople that we thought were going to be great, but they couldn't buy into our culture. They couldn't buy into the goal setting mentality, and they thought it was not worth their time. And they had their own process for developing business, but they weren't getting any traction. And eventually, they select out. So we have what I would say to be the best, one of the best sales teams I've ever been around in my time in my career. Very detail oriented guys who you could trust to go after new business opportunities, but at the same time, guys that you wouldn't mind, spending time outside of work with. And I think that's really special, and it really helps build camaraderie too in our company.
We can shift focus for a moment and head over to just some industry and market trend conversation. What comes next for the industry? What are you excited about?
I think right now I'm excited about in the new construction side. You're seeing a lot of new construction homes go up, maybe a little bit on the smaller side, smaller lots, smaller homes to try and drive some of that affordability. I think that's interesting. Again, it's not really a market that we play in. But again, like I spoke to earlier on the custom side, big homes with big glass and big doors, tall balloon walls, a higher price per square foot than you have ever dreamed of. Um, some really high level type builds that we have never really been a part of before. And then what's really exciting, and I think anybody in the industry can benefit from this, is the heavy remodeling initiatives that I believe we're going to see in the next few years. I think there's a lot of pent-up demand. Remember, a lot of homes traded hands 3, 4, 5 years ago, and we're at that point where work has to be done on those homes, whether it's a window replacement project or it's a bump out addition or it's a uh, interior renovation, whatever it may be, a kitchen. A lot of those homeowners, especially if they have that lower price, that lower mortgage rate, they should have some equity in their homes, and I think they're just kind of waiting to see what happens in the market right now to sort of start on those projects over the next few months and years.
Yeah, we need a couple months to sort this all out.
Yeah.
And then I agree, people will get started. How do you see technology impacting the way companies like yours operates?
Yeah, yeah. Technology is very important for us, and we critically evaluate how we can leverage technology when it becomes available to us. We look at it in every single way through our online store, through our CRM program, through our ERP system. Um, we want to be able to understand all the new technologies, even as much as like AI is concerned, and if it is really a value add for our business. The sooner we can understand it, the sooner we can be at the forefront of using the technology and hopefully creating efficiencies within our operation. In any business, you're either going to grow or you're going to go. And I think that technology is a really big part in that, in that development. Are you going to continue to grow, or are you just going to kind of manage your business out and get rolled up? So we're very technology forward at Hamilton.
And where do you see the challenges in all of this, whether it be in supply chain or whether it be in space or cash flow or installation constraint? Like where does the industry need to find places to solve problems?
Labor is certainly the biggest concern. Whoever can win labor is going to do really well in the industry. We have installed services at Hamilton for homeowners specifically who don't have a contractor and want to buy, through a turnkey solution. But we're also offering labor to our own pro contractors so that we can be their sub, because we know contractors have a lot of work that they'd like to produce, but they don't necessarily have the labor to produce it with. So if we can offer, to be a window installer for a pro contractor or hang a bunch of interior doors, like I think that's a really good opportunity for us and for them, especially on the remodeling side. But labor is definitely one of the biggest concerns. Um, I don't think cash is necessarily a concern unless you're sort of an early entrant into the industry, where borrowing costs are going to be a lot higher. But hopefully some of the legacy companies in the industry, whether they're dealers and distributors, they should be in a really good cash position right now. And perhaps if they're not, maybe they're targets for a consolidation. But I think the way we look at it is labor is definitely a concern in many aspects right now.
Speaking of technology and labor, are you seeing any sort of unique robotics or things of that sort come into the market at all when it comes to labor? I personally haven't seen anything. Wondering what's out there, anything happening in that space.
No, the only thing, I mean, if you really think big picture, right? Like what would a, talk about autonomous cars. And I was in Arizona last week for a conference, and in Phoenix, they have the Waymo. Waymo is
Yeah.
an autonomous vehicle.
New mode.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. But I was thinking, I was like, well, what if we had an autonomous forklift? What would that look like? Um, does that potentially speed up an operation? Can you be pulling loads 24/7, as opposed to having an operator on the lift? Um, I don't know what all that looks like. I'm just thinking kind of like
Yep.
big picture. If you had an autonomous forklift, how would that be helpful? I know in the manufacturing space, some manufacturers are implementing robotics more than others, especially in the window and door field. It's expensive. You kind of have to be into it for a few years to really justify the return on investment and see if it's a thing. Um, but and then in terms of machinery, in our manufacturing side, we have a couple of CNC machines that we use that have been very productive for us. And what you can do with a CNC machine now is really pretty impressive. So it's good to see that that technology is continuing to evolve.
How about from a product technology standpoint? Is there anything out there right now that's got you raising your eyebrows?
I guess from an actual product standpoint, it's really impressive to see what some of the window manufacturers are doing with glass and how big they can make these openings to ship one whole window unit. Um, you know, we did a window project with a European manufacturer over the course of the past 2 years, and the glass size openings were just incredible, and it's really impressive to see how we can achieve these big openings with windows. Um, but in terms of, decking products, the capped composites have gotten so good that it's really hard to tell the difference between product A and product B. Um, there's also some price parity there as well, driving the prices down to make it more affordable for composite PVC decking and what forth. So yeah, there's just it's pretty interesting to see how some of those products are evolving.
You also have 3D printing, which is cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's in the early infancy stages. We don't know if it's going to work or not, but that obviously saves on labor in theory. More to come on that.
Yeah.
And we tend to see a lot of alternative type products try to come into the industry. Some with success, some with not. Anything come to mind as we're saying alternative products? I mean, you hear about hemp and you hear about rice and all these other types of options out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting that just a decade ago, when you talked about composite trim boards, for example, you had PVC, right? And it was either you're going to get pine, prime pine, or PVC. And now you have PVC, and then you have a number of different other composite products that people are working with, and they have their different applications. Some are great for staining, others are great for painting dark colors. Some are great for getting a wood look, and then others are great for doing panels and build-ups and moldings and sidings and things like that. So I think that's pretty impressive just to see like the options that we have available to us just in the composite space. When we talk about building houses that last a long time, we have products that are capable of meeting those demands.
That's right. Um, what advice? It's kind of like two-phase part question. What advice would you give to someone looking to enter this industry today? And I'd phrase it more as to start a new company today, a new independent
Right.
yard today. And then also, what advice would you give to the leader, the president of that company, to drive that company forward?
Yeah. Um, Again, if I were starting a new company today in our industry, it's very important that you have a really strong team behind you, a core group of people that you're going to go into business with, that are all on the same page with you, and they understand, what the sales process should look like, what the efficiencies from an operation standpoint should look like, and who the core customer is. A lot of times in our industry, you see companies, especially smaller dealers, they want to be everything to everybody, and that is just simply unattainable. You have to really focus uh, very clearly on what your core product scopes are going to be that you're going to deliver to your core customers. So define your customer, define your core product. And with that, back that up with a team that can support those very specific initiatives. And if you're not so specific and intentional about how you want to enter in the industry, I think you would struggle. Whereas if you are in specific and intentional, I think you could be very successful and be very disruptive. Um, from a leadership standpoint, I can only kind of speak to, how I lead and what my style is. Um, I'm very rational and reserved. I'm not one of those leaders who too excited or frenzied about, potential new opportunities that could be good. But just like I'm not going to get melodramatic about, bad things that could affect the company that are out of my control. I believe that there's, two sides to everything, whether it's an idea, a customer, politics, what have you, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. Um, so I like to work on an even keel and reiterate that, we control what we can control. We want to be very transparent with the people that we work with. We want to show them a path to success and a very systemic process in developing sales and operations procedures and so forth. So um, I think ultimately, like again, if you're an entrant in the industry, be very clear with yourself, be very clear with your intentions, and who's going to come along with you for the ride.
And I think that advice applies to whether you've been in the business for a month or 100 years, right?
Sure.
That's going to help drive, especially the independents who need to. It sounds like the success is driven by um, finding your niche, right? Finding and being focused on your niche.
Yeah,
Let's take a step away from Hamilton for a second.
Yeah.
Let's dig
sure.
into you a little bit. Can you want to share maybe a defining moment in your career, something that maybe sticks with you that makes you or Hamilton special?
Defining moment in my career. I guess I can look back uh, as early as when I took over as president and CEO. in 2019, and then in 2020 we were met with the pandemic crisis, and that was a real crash course in leading from the front. And I'll never forget, waking up on March 14th in 2020, and I read this Harvard Business blog post about just some core tactics to think about in leading an organization through a crisis. So that kind of stuck with me, and I wanted to make sure I applied those elements in all of my communications in the next coming months because there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of people who wanted answers to a lot of questions. And I didn't profess to know all the answers, but I wanted to make sure that I was very transparent in what I did know and I didn't know, and what firmness we could kind of ground ourselves on and going forward with our company, through the crisis. So I think that was a pretty defining moment for me, having never been in the top spot before and having to lead other executives through the crisis.
Our second segment, saw it coming. So we talked a little about future stuff going on. I just wanted to follow up a couple of things. What trends do you see shaping the future of the industry? What's the trend right now that maybe the next 5, 10 years we're going to start seeing grow to even more?
Yeah, for us, again, like I go back to it, but custom homes, I think you're going to see a lot more high level finishes in custom homes. Um, Big glass, big windows. I think you're going to. I'd be curious to see what the trend looks like, especially for us in the Northeast, when it comes to the ideal like lumber species that our builders like to work with. As you guys know, in the Northeast, it's primarily a fir market, especially in throughout New Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania and whatnot. Given all that's going on, with price uncertainty, what does that mean for builders who are so accustomed to using fir product? Be curious to see how that develops, considering that, Southern yellow pine, is one of the most plentiful forests in the world, and we don't use much of it up here in the Northeast for framing.
It's becoming a trending topic because
Yeah,
the fir and the spruce, a lot of it's coming from Canada, and now we have these tariffs, and the question is
right.
what's going to happen, right? And if things are more expensive, the southern yellow pine become a real option and become adapted because it's been slow to become adopted. Sorry, not adapted.
Yeah.
So we may see that, and yeah, this has been fir for so long, and will change. Will people start looking to alternatives?
In addition to trends, it seems like maybe 3 years ago, Hamilton picked up a heavy social media presence.
Yeah.
So I'll do two things. Number one, I assume you have your upcoming March Madness social media tournament, which, by the way, we herald as one of the smartest ideas we've seen a lumber company do, because you get mass participation, and then we end up seeing your content all year long. Whose idea with that, and what does the evolution of that look like in your company?
Yeah. So we don't have a marketing person at Hamilton. You're looking at them along with some of our management team members. We just kind of cobble it together as far as our style on social media and on Instagram. A few years back, we we really wanted to really take our Instagram and social media posting to a higher level, with our video reels. And we saw that a lot of dealers were always just posting a picture of projects that they had been participating on, and product that they had sold, which was great. But we wanted to take it a step further, and I have a couple of people who I know who are influencers on Instagram and social media, and they were sort of like the inspiration for us to do something different and a little bit bolder, a little bit more unique, and just be outwardly entertaining and educational to some degree, and really just kind of bring others in our industry who are on social media together. So we came up with some unique scripts for different reels, and we also work with a videographer who helps us film some of the content. And then we started the March Madness thing a couple years ago, and again, it was me and I think it was Mike Linden, our VP of sales, and John Jacob, our VP of business development, and Kyle Millett. And we were all just kind of kicking around the idea and said, hey, what if we had like a March Madness tournament for vendors in our industry? And, we would pit vendors against one another and basically have the audience vote on who they liked. I mean, that's really all it is. Just like, who do you want to vote for? Sherwood or Garden State? And there's really not much more to it, but it just it gets the audience engaged a little bit. And I tell you, I was really surprised by how many vendors really got into it. You guys got into
Hyper,
it.
hyper into it, by the way.
Yeah,
And also, just to say this, so, we were a participant during this. And as a result, we were daily now, our guys are getting fed your content. We see it all the time. And the thing that I think is so special about your content, if I can just pay you a compliment, is a lot of your content, this remains a relationship business. And a lot of their content is just them being them. And it makes you feel like you know Hamilton better than you would have otherwise known them. Right. And so you think
right.
about like just another unique thing. They seem wholesome and they seem friendly and they seem knowledgeable, and you're getting it force fed to you in a way that you want to ingest the data. It was just a really, really brilliant idea, if I can pay you a compliment.
Yeah, I have two comments. One is the golden hammer is discussed on a regular basis in our company. Like, we
Golden Hammer,
want that.
you guys are the first Golden Hammer recipients.
We're the first, and we lost last year. Is that what happened?
A devastating loss.
Devastating loss.
I think it has to return to its rightful owner.
Yeah. This is our year. I mean, it's perfect timing that we have you on the podcast now.
Right.
We're ready. We're getting ready.
Strategically dated.
Everyone's working out, getting ready to get those votes in. And secondly, in our first year, we beat Windsor 1, and after that was over, we both exchanged T-shirts and like swag.
Yeah, we actually developed a nice relationship with them as a result.
Oh, that's cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah, we don't sell the Windsor 1 product, but maybe one day
Right.
we will. And we started a conversation, and
That's great.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but that's ultimately what we're trying to do on social media, because we can't really measure our business growth through our Instagram account. All we can do is say, hey, are we doing something out there where we're growing followers? Are we having fun? Do we get our vendors and our customers and other dealers engaged? Yeah, then great. We're doing our part. And again, it kind of develops our own brand out there in the industry.
We share a similar philosophy, because we're doing a podcast right now. We just
Right.
real way for us to measure, our success on doing a podcast or our Instagram. And a little secret, you're looking at the marketing people for Sherwood.
That's it.
So there you go. Same concept as your company.
Yeah.
Our philosophy for our social media is, so often our dealers, you can't bring the neighborhood to them. They know what they know because what the customers are asking. And so there'll be times where they don't know that there's a true demand in the marketplace. And social media for us is a great forum, just bring the neighborhood to our customers as well. There's clearly a number of really good reasons for doing it. But in terms of doing it best in class, as if we can pay a small bit of compliment, we're very impressed. So maybe next year, instead of a golden hammer or golden measuring tape to pay homage to, you can't truly measure it, but this is how we do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a good idea.
So, but can you just talk any success stories from the customer side of things, like the large ones? I saw your social media, like to buy from you, like those simple ones, or those are hard to find.
Yeah, I mean, some of our customer success stories just kind of goes back to our intent about building wallet share with our customers. We had one custom home builder. He started out, he was barely buying interior doors from us. And then interior doors turned into some molding, and then it turned into windows, and then it turned into lumber, and then it turned into exterior trim. And now he's spending well over $1 million, $1.5 million a year with us, buying almost everything exclusively through us, because he knows that, can he buy a product cheaper somewhere else? Absolutely. I mean, that can be said just about any industry. You can always find it cheaper in the market. But can he get the same level of service, the same level of gratitude, and really high level relationship? No, that's not possible. And that's what we try to develop with customers. And that was a really good story for us. And there's others that are going to be well along the way.
That's great. So we got our last segment.
We do.
Last segment of the day. This is you weren't prepared for this one, John. So
Okay.
this is rapid fire. So we're going to ask a bunch of questions.
Sweet.
Whatever comes to your mind. One word, a couple words, whatever you got. Kick it off.
Favorite business book or podcast that you'd recommend to our listeners?
My favorite business book is The Go-Giver. That's a nice little parable. It's a very quick and easy read and it just applies to just about anybody, whether you own a business, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're just working in administration in a company. You read that book, it really helps develop perspective about what matters, how to grow, how to develop relationships, and just be a genuinely good human.
We've asked this question on every podcast. This is the first time that someone's mentioned a book that I haven't read. I appreciate that.
Okay,
I'll give it a
there
look.
you go.
Todd's a big reader. What's your go-to morning routine?
Working out.
Most
I have four kids, so I'm doing one of two things in the morning. Either I'm going to the gym for a workout, or I'm at my computer by like 4:45 in the morning, just hitting emails and starting my day when it's nice and quiet. So I'm doing one of those two things in the morning.
what kind of workouts are you typically doing?
No, I do. I go, there's a gym right down the street from me, and I used to play football in college, so I never really lost that desire to work out. I always want to be active. I always want to do weightlifting and cardio training and agility training and things like that. So it's something that I've always just kind of stuck with. So I'm doing either that in the morning, or I'm working at my computer in the morning.
Your day starting around 5 o'clock, it sounds like.
Yeah, 4:45. Yeah.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. I had a mentor when I was at another company, and he was a long-time sales manager. He was a national sales manager, really well known in the industry, on the weatherization side. And he would always speak in idioms, but he told me one time, he's like, you got to feed the dog the right dog food. And that goes for customers, it goes for markets, it goes for people. Like, if you're not communicating the way somebody wants to be communicated to, if you're not giving somebody a product that they're going to find value in, they're not going to be your customer. They're not going to respond to you. So he always just said, just, are you feeding the dog the right dog food?
So last question. If you weren't in this business, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't in this business, I would, huh. It's so hard to say because this has always been a big part of my life. The industry has always been a part of my life when I've been, whether I was at Hamilton or other companies that I worked with. But you know what? My wife is also an entrepreneur, and she has a pretty large scale physical therapy practice, that's really niche oriented, and I'd probably be working for her if it wasn't for this company.
Very cool.
Well, Mr. Perna, we thank you for all of your dialogue and insight today. And we can't thank you enough for joining the podcast.
I thank you guys, and I appreciate it, and look forward to staying in touch.
So there you have it. John Perna, President and CEO at Hamilton Building Supply. And this podcast is pretty unique because not only were we talking to the president of Hamilton, Mikey, he's talking with the president of Sherwood, your recent promotion. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm now the president of Sherwood Lumber, so that brings a lot of responsibility as well. I have our producer over back there saluting me. Thank you very much. I have a lot of executive orders on my desk, looking to sign them later today. Tariffs. The media is coming at tariffs. How are we going to respond to tariffs? A lot going on, a lot of excitement. And the next generation of my family, I'm third generation, is coming in. So it's really cool. John Perna, also third generation. We have a lot in common. He gave us a lot of advice about how to maintain a business, especially an independent business that has competitors around you, how to build that fort. And that's something I'm going to continue doing as well. We got to build that fort, got to build that future. I'm very excited.
Well, if you like what you're hearing, we have a jam-packed schedule this March with a ton of guests. And to follow us, like and subscribe and follow us along, and we look forward to seeing you next time.